these could be identified players who the regulators thought were maybe the worst offenders in exposing the naked shorting. Okay? Expect consequences from trying to do good. It's going to be the brushback, the vengeful act, the counterattack by the cabal. I can't really say, but I got to mention while it's on my mind. I saw a video clip of 30 different fireballs that hit the earth. And they're not identified. We don't know what's going on our planet. We don't know what interplanetary alliances are at work. I just want to mention that and move away. Now, as for your brokerage outages, don't really know. I can only take some wild guesses. I just mentioned one. Another might be that these brokerage houses had plans to dump their SLV shares, and they want to be interrupted. They could have been just people who had a track record of getting in the way of the cabal. It could have been brokerage houses that attracted a good deal of money and had those track records. So let's cut them off at the knees and let's pull their electricity, and they can't do what they want to do. I don't know why companies don't have massive power generators. I'm actually looking to get one of these, and I'm slow in doing it. But one reason I don't is if you got a UPS system at work, you're burning up 1,500 watts at all times. So I don't want that. What I'd rather have is a laptop computer, and that's I didn't get one. I got a desktop, and I probably should have spent a little bit more money with a laptop. I call them laptops. They call them portables here, portátil. Fed wire transfers and credit cards. I know they don't use the same channels, but and they're really, well, I don't want to make the argument that they're similar. No, they're not. They're just big volume. For all I know, I don't really know. Okay, I don't really know, but I'm kind of guessing that credit cards expand the money supply. And we always think of it as a good thing, lubricate the business process and get it moving, and don't interrupt a sale, use your credit, get that delivery, you'll get paid. But what often happens is you get paid and you keep the credit, you keep your balance, and it just grows and grows. That kind of worries me because many newsletters are based on credit card payments. But the credit card system, I don't know what the motive would be. I thought about that. What could be the dark motive? I just don't know, except banks would like to limit their own exposure as they may gradually conclude that their clients will default on their balances. Okay, that's always been a big thing for me. And I could go on, but it's just a point having to do with my newsletter. I'd rather not. If you were to ask, 10 different people in the Wall Street investment side, not the managers, investors, they would say probably 9 out of 10 would understand, which is wrong, which would conclude rather, that the SLV is how I invest in silver. I want a silver exposure. I want to make money on silver because I think it's going to jump way up, and I want to have it in my portfolio. Okay, that's 9 or 10 out of 10. So what this Curry guy is saying is the opposite. He's saying that they take the physical and they sell it into the market, which is exactly what those investors would shudder to hear.
Right.
What? Right. You're on the other side. I am buying and you're dumping on the market with the inventory from SLV. So what he's admitting is, I believe, anathema, curse, exactly what Wall Street would not want to say. Let me just put something out there. I don't know this Curry, never seen him before. He looks like the younger brother of Darth Vader, by the way. I've got pink in my complexion. I don't have gray and blue. I'm a very pink guy. Look at that. Look at all that pink. Let's just put something out there. Let's do a watch on this guy. He admitted SLV is shorting the market. Let's see if he's not around anymore in a month. That's less than their lunch budget. Those guys do $200 lunches. Take out 5 or 6 of them, so they have $1,000 lunches every day of the week. Okay, so 900 million doesn't impress me. Okay, no. What? This guy admitted something, Jean-Claude, that is exactly what I expected him not to say. Now, if you, okay, here's what I think is likely to happen. Let me just go straight to my conclusion and we can fill in between, no problem. I think the day is going to come where we jump to 35 silver and SLV goes down 15% and lots of questions. Because they're going to conclude SLV is net short silver. I think they've sold more silver than they own. If they sell only what they own, then they're not net short. It's like they're not short anything. So how can you be net short? They haven't sold what they don't own. That's how you get net short. I think, and this is a big point by Maxwell. I call him Maxwell of Luxembourg, Max Deluxe. You know, after I mention him a lot, I just call him Max Deluxe, and he's a really good European source of information. He said to me that these bullion banks and possibly SLV also are short in the market. Let's leave SLV out. The bullion banks are short to the market and they're short to JP Morgan. They're double short. Okay, imagine that okay, I don't want to get caught up in my own logic here. JP Morgan is owed silver by a lot of different players, and they're being marshaled to the front lines. Like, come on, let's all get together here. Well, we don't have enough silver to short. Okay, JP Morgan, lend them some. Okay, so they all hit the front line, they're all selling, they're all shorting. But some of what they're shorting is borrowed from JP Morgan. So JP Morgan is in a very unusual position. Their clients might go under. A couple of their clients might go under. Then what happens? Then JP Morgan doesn't get paid back on the loan. And that turns out to be a business loss. Now, at the same time, JP Morgan is long silver. They couldn't lend it if they didn't have it. They wouldn't lend it if they didn't have a lot of it. So JP Morgan is going to be a beneficiary of the run to 35. Max Deluxe said to me, Jim, I don't think it's going to stop at 35. That's why they're working so hard to prevent a run. Notice that it didn't, he told me, okay, I will be very honest with you. We talked on Sunday last week. You know, that's 6 days ago. And he said to me, and he gave some reasons, I could fill in the blanks, but he said to me, they're not going to let it touch 30. They're ready. I just talked with somebody. I can't tell you his identity, can't tell you where he's from, but they're ready. And it might touch 28, might get into the 28s, but he said, I'm not going to touch 30, and I doubt it'll get to 29. And he was right. He wrote me back 36 hours later and said, they won this round. The bad guys won this round. But he said to me, there are many more rounds coming. Right. And there's some dynamics I'd like to explain to you, but after we get to the main issue here.
Okay.
They could not let it get to 30, because if it got to 30 or 31, it would cause short covering. They did, remember, it was the first week of February. It did get to 30. I think it got close to 31. I don't know exactly, but it wasn't there for long. They jumped on it, they ambushed it, and they pissed on it. They got it back down quickly. In 24 hours, it was down. There's an old saying, If the price is up, it better not stay up for 24 hours. That's when the damage comes. If it's intraday, then it doesn't cause a margin call. Intraday does not do that. Intraday, you might get a call from your broker and say, hey, look, you might have a problem here. Keyword might. But if it works and closes, the next morning they say, you've got a margin because it closed. And that's what they wanted to avoid, and that's what they succeeded in avoiding for the most part. I don't think completely, back on February 1st and 2nd. Mm-hmm. Okay, we had some damage there. Let me make a point about it was called the Reddit raid. It was called the GameStop Part 2. It was called a lot of things. Here's my impression. It was a probe. I got a military source guy. I call him Captain Bernard now. I got to give these guys names because they said, you can't use my name, Jim. You can't use my name. I'll get in trouble.
Right.
And I said, trouble from what? He said, I don't want to get into it. But I have 4 or 5 people in the military that I have contact with. And they won't talk to me if you reveal who I am. So I said, okay, you're Captain Bernard. He said, oh, that's fine. But remember that I'm just a really good student and I have limitations. And I talk with a lot of people. I figure things out. I'm a good historical student. And I've got some connections from my Navy days, military days. And they're still quite connected. And they have risen up in the ranks as I've been out. And he said, here's what I think happened with the Reddit raid the first week of Feb. It was a probe. He said, if you're planning a military attack, you do not want to commit all your troops. You do not want to put a lot of people at risk and put your assets at risk, like machine guns and mortar and tanks and trucks and whatever. So he said it was a probe. And he said they learned a lot from that probe in the first week of February. They learned a lot. There were reactions. And I guarantee you that several years ago, when we got up to $50 silver, there was a lot of learning by the cabal too. That was not so much a probe as an accident, and they learned how to control it. So there's learning by the bad guys, and there's learning by the good guys. And if you listen to 107, aka 107, you will learn that there is a lot of probing going on. And there is a lot of AI, our computer AI versus your computer AI. And I'm talking about supercomputer AI, where it's like analyzing 4-move forward chess. Well, if we do this, they'll do this, we'll do that, do that, do that, do that, do that. Oh, that doesn't work out well. If we do this, and this, and this, and this, hey, that looks good. Let's analyze that a little bit better. So then you do variations after the first 2 steps. Okay, that's AI war games. They call it war game, but it's really just simulation of 2 opponents. And, if they're a war, it's a war game. But it could be, business venture of Intel versus Taiwan Semi. Okay, it's a war game, but in business. Okay, this Captain Bernard said we had a military probe, a military type probe. And I am convinced, he said, that in the next few rounds, we're going to be more successful. But we're probably not done with the probes.